Hello everyone, and welcome to Bold Blind Beauty on Air's newest segment, Connected and Curious with Andy, the podcast where stories shine and understanding grows. I'm your host, Andy Chadwick, and together we're diving into the lives of incredible blind and visually impaired individuals who are changing the world in big and small ways. Here, we ask the questions, share the laughs, explore the challenges, and celebrate the triumphs without judgment, with curiosity and with heart. Whether you're sighted and you want to learn, or blind and you want to be understood, or educate. This is your safe space to listen, learn, laugh, cry sometimes, and connect, where curiosity is always welcome and no question is off the table. So, let's get connected, let's get curious, and let's jump into today's episode. Hello, good evening, good morning, or wherever you are. Welcome to Connected and Curious with Andy. I'm very excited about this one. We have a wonderful guest, and we're going to get to know her a little bit more because some of the most wonderful things that she's a part of. So I want everybody to hear about it. I have Julie Gritzmacher from Prevent Blindness with me today. Everybody, yay! Hi,
Julie. Hello.
Did I say your last name correct? I really need to make sure. Okay, yay, check mark for me. Okay, we're doing good for right now. So I would love for you, Julie, just to give a little tidbit, a highlight of who you are and what you do. And I have a few questions, and we are going to go through those questions, not in any particular order. But for right now, would you just mind telling everybody where you're located? You don't need to give the address, but where you're located, what city, and what do you do with Prevent Blindness?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so I am located in Chicago. That's where Prevent Blindness's headquarters are located. And we have about 30 national staff at Prevent Blindness, and then we have 6 affiliates scattered throughout the U.S. But I'm in Chicago. I'm originally from the Milwaukee area, so about an hour and a half from where I currently live in Chicago, but have been here for about 18 years. I would say I really grew up as an adult here, and it's my home for sure. And then what I do in my role, I run the Aspect program, and I also do a lot of different mental health, or really I should say population health programs. So one that I really care a lot about is mental wellness and vision loss. And I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. And then I would do some educational series focused towards informing primary care providers about identifying and referring, individuals who might be at risk for vision loss, and also work a lot to expand vision services and community health centers. So those are a couple of the things that kind of keep me busy.
Yeah, you're very busy. You're very, very busy. So I'm just going to go straight forward and ask you a question. So before all the titles and all the roles that you do, who is Julie when no one is watching you? Tell us about you.
I would say I am a very curious person, and super playful. So I really love to laugh. I love experiences that involve like close connections. Definitely, I enjoy my alone time, and I require it for my mental health. But I also really feed off of the energy of really good relationships and good quality conversation. that makes you feel less alone. And so I would say on any given weekend that I have a combination of, connecting with important people in my life, having some kind of unique experience. Like last weekend, I went to the Botanic Gardens and it was a silent disco. And so it
Oh,
was a friend,
cool.
and it was the orchid season. And so, among all of the orchids that were in bloom, my friend and I had our headphones on and we were dancing to disco, but also, just kind of a DJ playing random music.
Oh,
So
that's
I
cool.
think I really crave experiences over material goods. So I would say
I love
that's
that.
me.
I would have enjoyed that one. That would have been fun.
It was so fun.
That's so cute. So that's running over to this question. So what fills your cup, brings you joy, or grounds you outside of the work that you do?
Yeah. So I would say, yoga is a constant in my life. That was something that I found in, my early 20s. And it has always reminded me of the connection between mind and body, and how it starts with knowing yourself, and how every day is a different day. So what
Yeah.
feels like, you might feel a little, ache in your knee one day, and the other day, your hip is tight, and then your ankle is acting up. And it's, to me, yoga has been this like just constant check-in with myself, and coming back to myself, so it's been a huge fill my cup type of activity, to the point where whenever we travel, I'm traveling with a yoga mat, and so that's
Oh,
one
that's
thing.
cool.
I would say music of any kind. I love, live music. I love music festivals. Um, I enjoy, yeah, that connection with people, like deep conversations, really fill my cup. And I also love foot massages too.
That's so cute. That's so awesome. You were talking about all body parts hurting, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. When I need to sit down and talk to you about yoga, I know I tried it
Mhm.
once or maybe a couple times, but I really need to think about getting into yoga.
Oh, I love it. To me, it's so much more than the physical practice of it.
Yeah.
I feel like I gained a lot of confidence actually, through the yoga. Um, and so it's a much deeper, activity than what it kind of, the pop media, or just media portrays, right? Sometimes,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me, it's a deeper connection.
Oh yeah, we have to talk.
Yeah,
We
I would love
we need to
to.
talk. Oh my gosh, yeah. So, talking about everything, let me ask you this. Do you remember the exact moment or maybe a series of moments where the work that you do chose you? So you realize, yep, you're in this right space and it really chose you.
Yeah. It's hard to pinpoint one exact moment, but I will say it happened sometime in, a couple sessions in, or halfway through the first series of classes that we had, the first cohort that was trained in November of 2020.
Wow.
And I was new to working in this field. I had always been in the social work field and public health field, and worked in with a variety of people and populations, working in Africa, at kind of the height of HIV/AIDS epidemic, working, with mothers who delivered preterm or low birth weight, so in the NICU for years, working with women who had an increased risk of preterm pregnancy, or delivery rather, so high risk pregnancy. And then working with women who were survivors of domestic violence. And I think so, the population was new to me, and the opportunity was just, it was incredible. So I was excited to get to know this community. But I think it was really in those first few weeks of hearing the stories, providing a platform and providing some skills and background and exercises that people can do to hone their story, and encouraging everyone to do it in 5 minutes or less. And then as I sort of sat back and started to listen to these
Yeah.
stories, I was overwhelmed with gratitude. Like, how lucky am I to be a part of this program? One, to just have this platform and meet so many people across, the United States and beyond, because it's become a global program. And then to be immersed in the stories and to learn about their lives um, and their own journeys and struggles, and what has been meaningful for them. The stories that taught me so much, and really quickly too, and so I think it was so fulfilling for me to build a program from scratch. I've done
Yeah.
this. My personality is one that I enjoy, that I'm a creative person, and like really action oriented, so I like to build. And I think coming from a social work background, and then moving into public health, that was also very fulfilling, because social work is process oriented. You don't always get to see the fruits of your labor. And I think, when I was able to go into public health and academia, and I started working with medical residents, that's where I first built a program with my bosses. That was it was a primary care leadership track for multidisciplinary residents, and we incorporated storytelling into that. But then now at Prevent Blindness, when I came and started in that year of 2020, and I was able to do something similar, start it from scratch and watch it just blossom, and just meet all these people, hear the stories. And I knew that this was something so much bigger than just me, that this was, I guess, especially in that year, of course, like during the pandemic, and like,
Yeah.
that yearning to connect, and especially among the blind low vision community, where it wasn't as easy to just go out, as it was for sighted individuals. All of the testing was inaccessible, like, just going to the grocery store became perilous, and so um, i I realized, I think, in that time, like, I'm in the right place. And I think that also having the social work background and a lot of experience with grief, the grieving process, being with people at like incredibly difficult times in their life, I think that
Yeah.
helped, that I had those skills then to be able to do everything I could do to provide a safe platform for people to just continue to share and connect with one another.
I think we need maybe a lot more time with you because it seems that you've experienced quite a bit. And I did not even know. I didn't know that the cohort, because I was part of maybe the first or the second, um, but I did not know you had just started that. Crazy to hear. Just wow. Truly, wow. Because even at that first time, it was so organized, and like you said, the stories you hear from everybody, and it was just such a supportive group, and it was wonderful the time that I was able to spend with everybody, because I couldn't always get there, but that's wonderful to hear and to know the growth, the things that you guys are doing now, which you're going to talk about, but that's incredible. Julie, wow.
Thank
You
you.
must be proud of yourself, really.
Thank you. I will say I've gotten so much back from, of course, from being part of this program. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm incredibly grateful and proud of what it has
Yeah.
become. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's huge. Get ready, everybody. get the pen and paper. You got to write down some stuff. So with all of that being said, and it's clearly a, you want to say passion project, but it's not. It's clearly meaningful to you, right? So if you could describe your work with Prevent Blindness in one feeling instead of a title, what would it be and why?
Hmm. I think it's community comes to mind, um, or
Yep.
or collaboration. I would say those two. I think especially us as an organization, collaboration is definitely one of our strategic plan pillars.
Yeah.
And it is so true. And it's actually part of what I love about my role and the organization is that we really do, on any given day or week, I meet with people from across the nation or beyond, and we're collaborating. We're generating ideas about what can happen, what's needed, um, and just like it continues. Every year after year, there's lots of opportunities. I would say that there's a lot that as far as like the advocacy or policy component of Prevent Blindness in our work, I think that can be at times out of our hands in the sense that it doesn't move as quickly as we'd like it to,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's not unique to Prevent Blindness. Of course, it's the administration, it's the lawmakers oftentimes. So it's out of our
Yeah.
hands. But it's, I would say that what we are able to dream up and collaborate together on and find community in that, both in the aspect program, the community that's fostered, but also with the other projects that I do, and working cross disciplines and working with doctors or medical students or researchers. um, I would I just love that part of it, and so I would definitely say like collaboration or community comes to mind.
I love that. Collaboration is definitely community is my number one, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
With community and collaboration, because you just meet some wonderful people along the way. I don't know, you just question um everything. Every moment is wonderful. So when it comes to moments, can you tell me about a moment in your work that made you pause and say, this is why I do what I do? And do you have a story maybe that you can connect that has stayed with you?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, okay, so I would say the first thing that comes to mind is something that maybe doesn't get talked about enough is that in my role, there's a mentorship component that is very fulfilling for me. So people go through the aspect program and then they might reach out and ask if I can write them a letter of recommendation. And so
Wow.
I'm always pleased to do that. And I do that quite a bit in my role. And I love when they follow up and say, oh, I got that job, or I got into school, and I just
Oh,
love to see that, to just be part of that process. Not to say that it's my letter of recommendation that, made it happen, but to
but it
be
helped.
contributing to it. Yeah. And so one of the things that I think about as far as career path goes is, there was a young woman, a Black woman from, at the time she was living in Missouri, and she was really interested in ophthalmology, and but didn't really have any other people in her life who were other doctors, other Black women, who were studying to become doctors, or she didn't know any ophthalmologists at the time. And so she joined the aspect program. She went through it, and then she ended up becoming my intern. And while she was my intern, we accepted a Black woman ophthalmologist into the program. And so they got to meet. And because of that, the platform and the community and being part of the cohort, this woman actually became her mentor.
Oh,
And wrote a letter of recommendation for her to get into, medical school, and really just like, gave her hope, and provided, just that like, reassurance that you can do this too. And
yeah,
so
the
that's a
confidence. Yeah,
part of it. Yeah, exactly. Is, that representation, how like the aspect program just served as a platform. So like that wasn't our direct mission, right? But like that was
yeah,
absolutely a byproduct of it. And I love that. And I also love that when people, really establish good friendships, like genuine friendships from going through the
yeah,
aspect program, and they meet people that they can call on. And, and there's one woman who has macular degeneration who lives out in LA, and she lives alone. She's a retired counselor and teacher. And I learned so much from her in my early days, because she would just call me and tell me, um, you didn't send that document with high contrast, or like she would just correct me, and I knew like at first it was like, this is tough, but then I knew like really quickly, like she's doing it because she loves me and she cares, and like, and so we developed this really, good friendship. But she became really good friends with a woman who is out in Massachusetts, and they were in the same cohort together. And the woman in Massachusetts also has macular degeneration, and the woman from Massachusetts and her husband, they were in LA, and they called this woman up and they got together. And so I love that, of like that this isn't just a program that lives online, but it really does change lives, outside of the online sessions. And so that's really fulfilling for me.
oh my gosh, it warms my heart because it's all about the community and the relationship aspect of the program. I know it's there to learn, it's there to help, educate. What a wonderful outcome, right? With everything that you're doing. So I know while we're
Yes.
talking about the
Yeah, it's
relationships and what you're
incredible.
learning, what's something about the blind and visually impaired community that completely shifted your perspective the more you learned? And then something you wish everyone could experience or understand.
Hmm. I think, I really had no awareness, no exposure. I was, I got my first pair of glasses at age 40. I didn't know anybody in my family who was low vision or blind, and I think just how much it's not talked about. And even just, in the, among the disability community, it's not even necessarily recognized as well, as much as other disabilities are,
Yeah,
and thinking about like accessible, like structural design. We have wheelchair accessible bathrooms, for instance, or doorways, but we don't think about high contrast, at any given hotel, for instance, or any, even in ophthalmology offices. And so I think, um, and then of course all of just um, the stories about the discrimination that happens, and especially the limiting beliefs that society has for the blind low vision community. It's like I didn't have that awareness until I was just hearing these stories again and again, like, and also just witnessing what people have accomplished. And like, it's just uh, despite all odds, despite having access or reasonable accommodations in college, and despite the beliefs that maybe professors had of them, or employers, what someone's capable of, or I think all of that has so shifted my awareness that I immediately became an advocate. And now it's just, it's all I can do, but to tell somebody, or to raise awareness, just keep talking about it.
Yeah, and that's my whole intent of having this podcast because I my daughter wears glasses, and she has since she was a child. I just started wearing glasses in my late 40s. So, and the reason why I started this journey was I was researching information for my mum because she was having issues with her eyesight, and I was trying to be, knowledgeable and advocate when we went to the doctors and tried to ask the right questions to help. So, and with that, you learn so much, and I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to be, you know, bring value to an awareness to everybody. Because as I've said many a times, we don't know what we don't know, and
Yes.
sometimes we're a bit afraid to ask those questions. That's one of the reasons why I was so happy to be able to do this, and it's exciting. For example, you're on this my show, but you're giving so much information out there, and there's a lot of people that really want to find that information. So I appreciate you being here and sharing your experience, because we just need to know about it. So, with that being said, I really, really, truly want to talk more about the Aspect program. So, you kind of touched on it, but would you mind kindly just talking more about it and talk about the things that you guys are doing? Because I know there's some things coming up
Hmm.
very soon. Would
Hmm.
you mind sharing that?
Sure, I would love to. So, the Aspect program aims to teach participants how to put their story together in 5 minutes or less. And often this is, as it relates to your eye journey, your journey with low vision. And put it together in a way that is meant to be um, used for advocacy. So effectively, that's being persuasive in your communication, aiming to use your story to create positive change in the world. That is really our hope. And so we provide some exercises of where to start and how to put this all together, some prompting questions to do that. And that has evolved over the time that we have started this program. And I'll say that every time we train another cohort, we evaluate it, we get feedback, we make revisions. So it has been a little different every time, I would say. That's been a fun thing about it. Um, but it is, and that's just a starting point. So by the end of, a 10 session series, and, it's typically held in the fall. The 10 sessions is probably going to change a little bit. We're thinking about doing a more intensive, maybe 4-week training, but, and also offering some online, some in-person options as well throughout, kind of at different geographical locations. So we're working on that, but historically, it's been 10 sessions every other week, and held over Zoom. And we kind of, each session builds on the next, but the way that each class is structured is that we have like a didactic, or kind of a review of a topic, and that could be a quick little overview of something, and then we might have an interactive component to it where we might get in breakout rooms, or we have a discussion question, or we have a role play, because it's meant to be very practical advocacy skills building, in addition to storytelling. And then we always have time for people to share their stories and to workshop it, to get feedback from their peers on what could make it better, what could be, what was done really well. And so, just to provide an opportunity to hear many, many different stories and to practice one's own. And what we find is that a lot of people, haven't taken the time to practice their own story or to put their own story together. So it's new for a lot of people.
Yep.
Maybe they've been advocating on a certain topic for a long time. But they haven't, been tasked with this particular assignment. And what I always love to see is how this process can be pretty cathartic, for many people. It can also bring up uncomfortable memories or painful memories. And so it's also supporting and normalizing that too. But,
Yeah.
but reminding the group that it's meant to, that we are sharing this to better the world.
Yeah.
Our goal here is to help other people not go through what you went through, or not have to wait as long to be connected to a resource, or et cetera. But it's a altruistic purpose. And I would say that that's the unifying factor among people who join Aspect, is they do really want to help other people.
Yeah. How many normally attendees do you have? Is there a max?
Typically, the cohort size is about 30 people. We've had as many as 40, but that tends to get a little bit too big. So, somewhere around 30. And some people would say, 15 would be ideal. So it kind of varies. There's been gratefully a lot of interest. And so we want to give a lot of people an opportunity. But yeah, it's typically around 30 people.
So cool. And what's the criteria to be part of the program? Do you have to be blind, visually impaired, low vision, um, 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 a caregiver? What's the criteria?
Yeah. So the criteria is wanting to use your story to create change. So either we accept people who have low vision, who are blind, and the criteria is wanting to gain some advocacy skills as well. So those interests are the criteria. But then, yes, the majority of participants are blind or low vision, and due to a variety of conditions, and some are born blind, some have a stroke or cancer, or more traumatic loss of sight,
Mm.
and then others have progressive conditions. So there's a variety of experiences there.
Yeah.
But we also invite what we call allies to join the group. So these are sighted individuals who are working in the field. So in the past, we've had researchers, we've had mental health providers, O&M specialists, occupational therapists, medical students, optometrists, and ophthalmologists. So we think that is a really unique component of the program, is
Yep.
that we really like to establish kind of a level playing field with
Yep.
that. So to say that everybody has a story and every story is equally valuable, we're not raising up the doctor story, more so than the a sort of patient
Yeah.
story experience. All are trained the same way. And so when we have time during every class for stories to occur, we make sure that we're also hearing from the allies too. And oftentimes, among the ally group, they'll say, well, I don't have a story, or my story is not as good, or or even among the blind or low vision community, some might, a visually impaired person might say, well, I'm not really that blind, or I'm not blind enough, like my story is not that bad, like and I just say to them, like, there's no comparison here. Every
Yeah.
story is important. And so we do a lot of kind of coaching as well, to remind them that they do have something important to say, even if they don't realize it right away.
Oh, I would love that. I love it. And what are you doing soon? Is it this month, next month? There's
Mm,
something big happening.
yes. Yes. So every 2 years, we bring together 4 cohorts at a time. And so in June of 2026, we are bringing together cohorts 8 to 11. And so we're expecting somewhere around 90 to 100 people.
That's
They're
huge.
bringing, yeah, they're bringing some, each person is allowed to bring a guest. So they're bringing some guests too. But so it's from Sunday to Wednesday, and Sunday is kind of a welcome and a rally, and music will be playing, and then Monday is all day. Well, like from 8:30 to 1, we'll have some sessions and a story slam, and then we're hosting new this time. We've hosted this event 3 times now, and it's always in DC because we go to Capitol Hill as part of this event. So on Monday night, we are actually hosting in a theater nearby what we're calling the Vision Monologues, and
Mhm.
this is it's a series of monologues that were written by my project manager, Janetta Price, and it's going to be acted by there's, I think, 24 actors, so all aspect individuals, and then 3 of us allies are telling our stories on stage as well. So the actors are reading the scripts or memorizing the scripts that Janetta has written on a whole host of topics, and then we'll
Yeah.
have the allies tell their real life stories on the stage. But it's at a theater
That's
in
so
Bethesda,
cool.
and it's open to the public. So we have
Recording it?
probably, what's that?
Are you recording it?
Yes, yes, we'll be
Oh, good.
recording it, and but I would definitely love for the public to come and join us. So we have a flyer that we can share, and then as part of the summit, then on Tuesday we'll go to Capitol Hill, and we'll have probably after our everybody will be assigned to a team. So you'll go to your to meetings with members of Congress, and then afterwards we're going to have a reception, and then on Wednesday we'll debrief and reflect on our meetings. So it's a legislative advocacy opportunity, but also community building, um, and theater, a theater performance.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. That's going to be awesome.
I'm so excited.
I know you are, and I can't wait to see the video. Oh my, that's going to be awesome. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's well done. That's really fantastic. I'm excited about this. So I have
Mhm.
a couple questions, a couple more questions. So as a sight person, I know this is my feeling. I want to be an ally. So if a sighted person is listening right now and genuinely wants to be an ally but is afraid of getting it wrong, what would you say to them? What would you suggest?
Mhm. I would say that the blind and low vision community are humans, and they want to feel love and belonging and included. And so the same way that you would treat, anyone else as, wanting to make them feel included, um, show that same kind of love. So, I think if you're at all concerned about anything, like, ask, just always ask. Even if you think like there's there's just no question that I think, well, I'm not going to say there's no question that's like a stupid question, right? But I will
Yeah,
say,
the stupid question
um,
is a stupid question. Let's be honest.
right. I will say that, just ask, like, because even your question shows that you care, that you're thinking about it. I think in most cases, a question is that you're curious and you want to know. Um, so don't make assumptions about what somebody can or cannot do. Don't make assumptions that they can't, hear well because they aren't able to see you as well. Just ask. Don't assume that um, you know, have them figured out. Like when you meet one blind or low vision person, you've really met one blind or low vision person. So
Exactly.
just ask questions and don't assume, and don't be afraid to ask. Like you would just treat them like anybody else. That's, I
Yep.
think, what I would say.
And I love that because I have learned that doesn't matter who they are, everybody's unique, right? Everybody has an individual story. If they don't want to answer that question, they'll let you know.
Yes.
And that's quite all right. So I love that. I love that. Um, so, what are some of the unspoken barriers that people who are blind or visually impaired face that we don't get to talk about? And I know enough. We don't get to talk about enough. And I know you touched on a couple things, but is there anything that you can think of that's not spoken about enough?
Yeah. I think about just the the internalization that can happen of like, I'm not good enough, or I'm a burden, or, you know, and, and like those moments of like aha moments of some of the
Yeah.
aspect participants when, I might define what is internalized ableism, or, like, and then provide some examples, and some people will have this aha moment of like, wow, so I can put a name to it now. That
Oh,
is what I was doing. And I think there's freedom or there's like, liberation in that, when you can
yep.
identify something and to normalize that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
And to realize that you're not the only one going through that too.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But then to
Yeah.
consider, how has that impacted my decisions? How, and like, just kind of, like, rake through your life and think, how could things be different if I, were to take a different mindset, or just, yeah, like, now live like this at this point going forward, like, really, I don't know, integrating that into my life of like, I'm gonna combat the reflex to internalize, or,
Yeah.
something like that. I just think that that's not something that is talked about enough,
Yep.
because it's just because there's not an outlet for it. That's just, um, people maybe don't ask. Like, sighted people don't know, and they don't ask. They don't have that awareness. I think it's only through my experience and exposure and talking and hearing stories that I've really identified that this is something that, goes on and is difficult.
Yeah. And seeing that's why your platform is so great, right? Because there's a space, and we have to have more of these conversations to normalize it a bit.
Yes.
If that's something, or can it be normalized? We just have to have the conversations. And
Yes.
for me, it's to ask those questions, to not be afraid, to, to say, okay, just sit down and let's have a conversation. What are you going through?
Yes.
How can I help? What can I not do? I love your program. I love what you guys are doing. Um, so do you have any new happenings this year apart from going to Capitol Hill, which is a huge deal, right?
Hmm.
But what else can we expect from the Aspect program and from you, Julie?
Yeah. So a couple things that I'm really excited about. One is that we just launched a web page on our Living Well with
Yay!
Low Vision. Well,
Yay!
there's a couple of things. So one is on the Living Well with Low Vision website, we just uploaded 18 videos that have to do with mental wellness and vision loss. And they feature 4 mental health therapists, and they're all of those therapists are visually impaired, low vision, or blind, and they are talking about themes of identity and disability, themes around disability affirming care, um, you know, integration. So they're providing advice to other therapists
Okay.
on things to be mindful of, like features that are unique in the culture to blind and low vision individuals that don't that are unique and that impact mental health. And so they're giving that advice because what we do know is that there are therapists out there that regularly are, turning away blind or low vision individuals who need help right now. And they're turning
Yeah.
them away because they don't feel equipped to counsel them. And so
Okay.
this is an effort to address that need for those who do want therapy to be able to really equip the professionals with the skills to be able to do that, whether it's sighted therapists or blind or low vision therapists. Equally,
Okay.
some
And they
need
can all
additional.
get that on that website. What was the name of the website again?
It's living well with low vision,
Okay.
and then
Awesome.
yes, and so then we have several videos that we just uploaded, and so I'll share it. I'll share the link with you to
Okay.
include where needed, but and so we're really hoping to expand the library of videos that are on there. There's, as I mentioned, there's 18 right now, and they're short. They're no longer than 3 minutes.
Okay.
But we want to include some maybe it's parent or child, or it's or parent or teen, all people who've gone through aspects, or it might be partners, partners or spouses, talking about how relationships might have changed or roles might have changed, when someone was first experiencing low vision, and just the complexities, of adjusting, and things to know. And then peers, friends, and any
Yeah.
changes that came with that. And so all on the topic of really thinking holistically about what contributes to one's wellness, mental wellness, and how do we just bridge that gap, shorten the gap, like interrupt is the word I like to use, interrupt what could be, debilitating depression for years.
Oh, that's awesome, Julie. Oh, that's awesome. I think I need to wrap it up.
Mhm.
With the last question, if you could just leave our listeners with one challenge or a small action they can take this week to create a more inclusive world, what would that be?
Ooh, um, I would say to don't forget the blind or low vision community when you're establishing any program, when you're thinking about any law, when you're building the next building, when you're thinking about the systems and the structures. I think my plea is to um, you know become familiar with this community and to consider them, in
Oh,
the policies and structures and systems.
thank you, Julie. Oh my gosh, this has been awesome. I've learned so much about you, and we are definitely going to talk offline because I did not
I would
know
love that.
everything that you have talked about. I did not know. So I really appreciate you. I hope all the listeners, they've learned some things about you, about the Aspect program. And if anybody wants to get in contact with you, how do they reach you?
Sure. They can email me. So my email's on the website, but I can provide it now too if you prefer. So
Yeah, go
it's
ahead.
J. Okay, it's J Gritzmacher, Grutzmacher at preventblindness.org.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Please reach out if you have questions about the Aspect program. please reach out to Julie. Thank you, everybody, for staying tuned, and hope to hear you back or see you back or whatever that word is for the next one. Thanks again, Julie. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Bold Blind Beauty on the Air's Connected and Curious with Andy. I hope today's conversation left you inspired, educated, and a little more connected than before. Remember, curiosity brings us closer, and every story shines a light. Until next time, stay connected, stay curious, and keep shining.